Alrighty. Hi, folks. Welcome to PyData Global. Sorry about that. We had a bit of a technical issue to get this one started. Yeah, so happy to have you here. We are, if you want you to engage with the speaker and your attendees in this session, so please feel free to put questions in the Q&A or have comments in the chat. Today we're going to be, our next speaker is Tony Ojeda, and he is giving a talk on generative AI and Python, unlocking efficiency, personalization, and insight. So Tony, take it away.
All right, thank you so much. Hello, everyone, and thanks for tuning into this session on using generative AI and Python to unlock efficiency, personalization, and insight. My name is Tony Ojeda, and I'm the Chief Data Scientist at Fulcrum Analytics. We are a boutique consulting firm that specializes in data science, machine learning, and increasingly generative AI. I've been working in analytics now for over 20 years, and for the last 2 years, I've been focusing primarily on generative AI applications. So researching, thinking deeply about, and prototyping different use cases that could really bring value to our clients and the world at large. And this talk primarily grew out of that research and experimentation, just so you have a little bit of background there. Today's session is structured around 3 key business challenges where generative AI can make a significant impact. For each challenge, I'm going to show you a working application that I've built using Streamlit and large language models, providing not only a glimpse of what's possible, but also a clear view of the design process. My goal for this session is for you guys to leave with practical insights and a framework for leveraging generative AI in projects of your own. All right, so without further ado, let's jump in. So before jumping into the actual demos, let's take a moment to kind of align on what we mean by generative AI. Generative AI refers to models that create high quality text, images, and other content by leveraging the patterns and knowledge that they've learned from their training data. So you guys are probably familiar with models like GPT-4 for creating text or DALL-E for generating images. But what's most exciting and what we're going to focus on today is how these capabilities can be applied to solve real world challenges. Because after all, the real power of generative AI isn't just in what these models can do independently, but in how we can incorporate them into a broader system and processes to drive meaningful impact. In other words, it's not just about the model, it's about what you build around the model and how you design everything to work together. And I really hope that that's one of the things that you take away from this talk. All right. So the first area of opportunity we're going to be looking at today is generative AI's ability to democratize access to information and insights. And more specifically, let's talk a little bit about the data analysis bottleneck that many organizations face. So while they have more data than ever before, extracting meaningful insights from that data often requires specialized technical skills, significant time, and substantial resources. And this kind of creates 2 problems, right? The data scientists and analysts like us become overwhelmed with requests from a bunch of different business stakeholders that want insights on certain types of information. And then the non-technical team members struggle to access the insights that they need to be able to make informed decisions. And so what if we could change all that, right? What if we could democratize data analysis, break down these barriers, and make insights accessible to everybody in the organization? And that was the inspiration behind this first app that I want to show you today. And so this first app is going to be a data analysis assistant. This tool allows users to upload a data set and instantly receive a comprehensive report filled with valuable insights that are in that data. And once the report's been generated, then the user can go and ask specific questions about the data. And the app generates interactive plotly visualizations along with clear, intuitive explanations of the results of the analysis. And so in essence, this tool can function as a personalized data analyst for everyone, facilitating access to insights and really enabling better, faster decision-making through an intuitive interface. All right, so let's take a look at how that works. Give me just a second here to switch over to the app. All right, So this is what the app looks like. And the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to choose a data set using this Browse Files button. I'm only showing the browser window, so you can't see what I'm choosing, but it's going to be a customer churn data set. And you'll see that right away, the LLM gets to work analyzing the data and spitting out a comprehensive report of the insights in there. Before we take a look at that, let's take a look at the data so you have some kind of context as to what the LLM is analyzing, right? So this is a customer churn data set. You can see you have a customer ID here. You have some demographic fields. You have some information about how long they've been a customer. That's this tenure field. You have some information about what services they're subscribed to. This is for a telecommunications company. So these are all the service fields that have yes or no based on the services that the customers subscribe to. You have some information about what type of contract they're on, a month-to-month contract, a one-year contract, a two-year contract, etc. And then some information about their billing, so whether they're enrolled in paperless billing, what their payment method is, what their monthly charges is, and then what their total charges have been over the entire tenure that they've been a customer. And then finally, you have this churn field. That's a binary field that tells you whether or not that particular customer churned or not. All right. So now that we've taken a brief look at the data set, let's take a look at the kinds of insights that the LLM found in the data set. And so it groups the insights into different insight categories, right? So there's a category for insights related to customer demographics. And so here it tells you that there's roughly an even split between the genders, and 16% were senior citizens and that kind of stuff. It has another insight category about the services and subscriptions, showing kind of what the behavior is there for the customer base. And then it's got contract and payment preferences, where it talks a little bit about that. And then it's got an area here for the churn, where it correctly pulls out the churn rate of 26% based on the insights in the data that it was able to extract. And then it's got some other kind of miscellaneous insights and opportunities here that it provides to the user. And so now that it's generated this report of the insights, I can go ahead and ask it questions. So I'll say something like, how do churn rates look across contract types, and payment methods? And it's going to go and it's going to generate a plotly visualization, and then it's going to provide an explanation of what we're seeing. So this is the visualization that it generated, and as you can see from here, month-to-month customers that pay via electronic check have a 54% churn rate. So that's a real problem for the company. So in addition to producing this visualization, you can also see, well, let me take a step back. The way that it produced this visualization was by writing code, right? So the LLM wrote the code to be able to produce this plotly visualization and be able to manipulate the data that goes into that visualization. And so I have this drop down here where you can actually drill down and see the code that the LLM wrote, right? And then underneath that, as you saw, you have the kind of intuitive explanation of what it is that we're seeing in the visualization up top. And so I can say, show me a heat map of number of customers by contract type and payment method. So the electronic check month-to-month customers may have had a high turn rate, but there may not be that many of them, right? So this will kind of tell us whether that's a big problem or not. And it is, because a significant number of the customers pay via electronic check. So you can kind of see insights like this pretty easily using this tool. And again, you can see the code that he used, that it wrote to produce this, and then a plain language description of what the insights are as a result of the analysis. And so you may be asking yourself, kind of, how far can this tool go, right? Like, how much of an analysis can it do? How sophisticated can it get? Through my testing with it, I've gotten it to be able to do some up to some fairly basic machine learning. So let's go on the tightrope here without a net and ask it to do that. So I'm going to ask it to train several machine learning models to predict churn and plot their evaluation metrics. All right, and so this should take about a minute because it's training multiple models, and then it's producing the evaluation metrics for all of them and then plotting them. So here it looks like it trained a logistic regression model, a random forest, and an SVC model. And it generated the accuracy, precision, recall, and F1 scores for each of those models. We can take a look at the code again to see how it did that. It imported all the things that it needed to do that, made a copy of the data set, one-hot encoded the categorical variables and everything, dropped the customer ID and target variables, so that's correct, scaled the data set, and then fit each of the models here. So pretty impressive for an LLM, right, writing machine learning code. And then, yeah, so here it'll give you a description of which model performed the best. And yeah, so you can do that. All right, and so now that I have shown you how that works, let's take a look behind the scenes and kind of walk through how I designed this app, right? So here's kind of a high level design diagram that I put together to illustrate that. And so the process, as you saw, begins when the user uploads a data set, right? And the data set could be a CSV, an Excel file, or a JSON file. I'm currently working on getting it to hook up to a relational database to be able to pull data from that as well. But once it has the data, the way that I'm getting the comprehensive report initially to generate is that behind the scenes I'm using pandas to aggregate the data in a bunch of different ways, right? So calling df.describe for numeric variables, categorical variables, doing different types of summaries, doing a bunch of crosstabs between all the categorical variables so that we know kind of what the distribution is across each of those combinations in the data and what percentages are what. So that's how it gets the information to be able to produce that report that you saw. That all those perspectives of the data are then injected into a prompt template with instructions for how to produce the report, and that prompt template is then passed to the OpenAI API, which then is able to generate the comprehensive report based on those instructions. After that's generated, as you saw, I was able to ask questions, and those questions are also passed into a different prompt template and passed to the OpenAI API, which the instructions tell it to write the code to answer the user's question using pandas and plotly. And then here's kind of an interesting part of the design of this app. Once it writes the code, it executes the code and checks the results of that. If it results in an error, it will feed back the traceback of the error and the code that was written back to this stage, and the LLM gets to try again until it gets it right up to 5 times. There's also some other checks in here for whether or not the result is good enough to kind of display to the user. And those are kind of rule-based for the time being, but I've got plans to have generative AI analyze that part of it as well. And then once it passes all the checks, that's when you see the interactive visualization. The data frame that's feeding that visualization gets passed back to the OpenAI API, and then that's how it's able to produce the explanation of the results underneath the visualization. All right. The next area that I wanted to talk about is personalizing experiences and content. And so many organizations have this sort of personalization challenge, right? Because today's customers are increasingly, um, they expect every interaction to be tailored to their unique needs and preferences. But delivering these types of personalized experience at scale is incredibly challenging, and it requires gathering and analyzing vast amounts of information, understanding context, and generating customized content, all while ensuring kind of the consistency and the quality that the customers expect. And this is really where generative AI can make a real difference. And so the second application I'm going to show you today demonstrates how AI can revolutionize personalization efforts, meeting the customer expectations more efficiently and effectively. And so this next app is a briefing generator app, and it takes structured data about a person or an organization and it transforms it into a tailored, concise brief designed to meet the user's specific needs. So whether you're preparing for a customer meeting or you're onboarding a new employee or you're researching a sales prospect, the app adapts its output to be able to deliver the most relevant insights for that particular situation. All right, let's take a look at how this one works. Let me switch back over to here. All right. And so I've set this up to be able to choose from different use cases. And so I'm going to use the retail customer use case first. And what it's currently doing is it's going and pulling the appropriate data set to be able to populate from the back end here. And so now that I've chosen the retail customer use case, I can choose an actual customer, and it'll give me a brief about all the information about that customer that I need to know before meeting with them, right? So this person, Joe Jameson, his status is he's a gold member at our organization. He's got 4,500 points. It has some information here about his shopping preferences and what types of products he prefers. And then it gives me some high-level recommendations for interacting with that customer. And so let's say that I want to get 3 product recommendations for this customer, right? So give me 3 product recommendations for this customer. And so it's going to go ahead and generate based on the types of products that he likes, 3 recommendations of products that he might be interested in. And so now I can say something like draft a marketing email to this customer, including the recommendations and an exclusive offer. And so now I have an email that's personalized for Joe here, right? To make him feel special, give him an exclusive offer, and recommend to him 3 products that he's very likely to be interested in. So that's kind of the gist of how that works. I've got some other use cases, but I want to make sure that we get all the way through the presentation here. I see we're at like 18 or so minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next one. But before I do, let's take a look at kind of how, oh, hold on. I got to switch over to the slides. There we go. All right. Before we move on to the next app, let me show you a quick overview of how I designed the Brief Generator app. So as you saw, the user journey begins, once you select the use case, the user journey begins with picking a customer from the second drop-down box. And then behind the scenes, the data is queried for that customer record, and that's passed to pandas to put all the information together, and then that gets passed to the OpenAI API in a prompt template, so that it has all the information and is able to generate the briefing with the information for that specific customer. Then once that briefing is generated, the user is able to ask follow-up questions or make a follow-up request like you saw me do. And that's combined with the conversation history up until that point, and passed to the OpenAI API so that it can generate the appropriate tailored answer or content or whatever it is that the user needs for that customer. All right. And then now that we've explored how generative AI can transform the personalization efforts of an organization, let's move on to our third and final area of opportunity. And this one is one that I'm kind of the most excited about. It focuses on generative AI's ability to improve efficiency, productivity, and decision making. And so more specifically, let's dive into this third challenge that many organizations face, which is effective collaboration and decision making. So complex problems require diverse perspectives and expertise, but coordinating multiple stakeholders can often be very time consuming and resource intensive. Brainstorming sessions traditionally might miss critical viewpoints or be limited by logistical constraints like scheduling and availability. And so, what if we could use AI to facilitate kind of rich, multi perspective discussions, ensuring that every angle of a problem is explored uh, and a good comprehensive solution is put together? That's exactly what our third app is designed to do here. And this third app is a collaborating agents app. And this tool allows you to create a panel of AI personas, each representing a unique area of expertise or perspective. And the users can define a problem or a goal, and the agents will basically engage with each other in structured dialogue and collaborate and build on each other's ideas to be able to work towards a solution to the problem. So let me get to showing you this one. Here we go. All right, so this is the Collaborating Agents app. I've got 3 agents here that are preloaded, that I preload, well, 4. Let's do 3, these 3 that are preloaded in here. One is going to be a domain expert, and this is going to adapt its expertise to whatever problem or goal is entered down here. The second one is a creative problem solver, and its job is to kind of think outside the box and propose novel ideas that the domain expert wouldn't likely think of. Um, and then the third one is a critical analyst, and this one's job is to basically challenge or poke holes in the ideas and the suggestions that the other 2 agents make, right? So um, it it almost forces them to think harder by like challenging them. And so once you have the agents loaded in here, you can enter a problem here. Once you've entered a problem, you can improve that problem, and the LLM will kind of flesh out the the few words that you put in here into a more comprehensive problem definition. And if you can't think of a problem, you can click random, and it'll come up with a random problem for you, which is what I've done here. So right now, the LLM is generating a random problem behind the scenes. And this will take just a second. All right, so the problem is revenue optimization challenges for a regional grocery chain. Green Valley Grocers, it has a little bit of information about the company. Then it gives you some context about the problem, some key problem areas, fleshes all those out. So it's a pretty kind of well defined problem by the LLM here. Um, the user can also specify the number of rounds of collaboration that you want the agents to do. I'm going to say 2, and then you can choose the model, the LLM that's going to be powering all this. I'm going to leave it with GPT-4o because that one tends to perform the most consistently here. And then once all that's ready, you just hit start collaboration, and the agents will start talking to each other. So here's the domain expert kind of giving his take on what some potential solutions to the problem are and what that might entail. Then here's the creative problem solver thinking outside the box with his ideas. And then last but not least, you have the critical analyst who's going to kind of try to poke holes in uh, the, uh, the ideas of the other two. And they'll keep discussing here for 2 rounds. And at the end of that discussion, at the end of the 2 rounds of discussion, the entire conversation and all the ideas are going to be passed to another agent, which is a strategy agent. And the strategy agent's job is to take all those ideas and put together a well structured plan for what tasks need to be done to solve that problem, right? So here we have the creative problem solver. Next will be the critical analyst. And then we will see the strategy agent in action here. All right, so this is the strategy agent putting everything together. I'm going to go ahead and scroll up here so we can take a look at kind of what the output is, right? So um, the strategy agent will organize things by initiative and then task within that initiative. And so this first initiative is pricing strategy optimization, and the first task within that is to develop a dynamic pricing model. And so for each task, the strategy agent is going to determine whether an AI or a human should be responsible for this task. It's going to provide some background on why we need to do that task. It's going to give you an objective for the task. It's going to tell you what skills, resources, and materials are needed to be able to complete that task. And then it's going to provide you with some instructions, uh, including the steps that are needed to complete that task. It's going to tell you what the deliverable for that task should consist of. And then it's going to estimate the amount of time and the value of that task and how many of them you need, right? How many of the deliverable you need. So, in addition to that first one, one task is to create a data-driven marketing strategy for this company, implement an advanced inventory management system. That's more complicated, so you can see it assign that to a human, and conduct a financial analysis for cost reduction, and so forth and so on. And so that's kind of how the collaborating agents app works. One of the things I want to do next with this app is parse out these tasks. And for the ones where AI is responsible, I want to try to have an LLM kind of actually do that task. And so that'll be an interesting kind of next experiment here for this one. All right. And this is a brief look at how I designed this app. You can kind of tell what this looks like. Yeah.
Sorry, Tony, to interrupt. I just want to say this. We've come to the end of the session. If folks want to drop off, thank you for joining us. We don't have a back-to-back right here, so we can carry on for a few minutes. So
okay, I've got one more slide after this, and then I should be all done.
Perfect.
Okay?
Great. Right. Thanks, Tony.
All right. So yeah, but from the demo, you can kind of tell the user defines the agents, defines the problem or goal, and then chooses the model and the rounds. The agents do their thing, and then once the discussion is done, it's passed to the strategy agent, who then produces the overall plan. All right. And so, as we wrap up here, I want to leave you with 3 key insights from today's presentation. So the first is that generative AI has a broad range of applications. So just in this presentation, you've seen that it can help analyze data, prepare users for personalized interactions, and work together to figure out how to solve problems. And these are just a few of the many use cases that generative AI can help us with. The second is the way that you design around generative AI and how you integrate LLMs within a larger system or process is super important, right? Whether that's having the LLM write code and having a process that checks that code to make sure that it does what's expected, or grounding the AI's responses in data, or having multiple agents that look at different sides of a problem. It's important to really think about how you can structure things to get the best result for your specific use case. And then third, it's my view that generative AI doesn't replace humans. It enhances and augments our capabilities. And so in each of these demos you saw today, a human was present at some point in the process. In the data analysis one, a human chooses the data set and comes up with the questions to ask of it. In the brief generator, the AI is putting together a brief to prepare the human for some situation, and the user determines what follow-up questions or requests would be most helpful to them. And in the collaborating agents app, the human creates the agents, defines the problems, reviews the conversation, and acts upon the resulting strategy for solving the problem. And so by keeping humans in the loop, we can solve problems more effectively, work more efficiently, and achieve better results than either the human or the AI could on their own. I'd love to continue this conversation. I've put my contact information there at the bottom of the slide. And so whether you have questions about the apps I showed today, want to discuss potential use cases, or just want to share your thoughts, feel free to reach out and connect with me. Thank you everyone for your attention today, and I look forward to seeing how you'll leverage generative AI in your work.
Great. Thank you so much, Tony. That was fascinating. So you do, as I said, we have a bit more time here. So you do have a couple of questions if you want to answer them.
Okay.
Do you have a few more minutes here? Okay, great.
Yeah,
So
I don't have to run.
yeah, so what is the LLM model that Demo UI uses?
Yeah, so in all three models, I'm using GPT-4o. The
Okay.
collaborating agents, I'm able to choose between two other models, Claude 3.5 Sonnet and Llama 3.170B through the Grok API, which is very fast, but tends to run out of context window pretty quickly with all the stuff that the agents are generating, right?
Cool. Great talk, Tony. For the use case where your
Thank you.
solution used the LLM to make a personalized recommendation, can the LLM also provide explainability of the basis for making the recommendation?
Yeah, so that's just a matter of engineering the prompt behind the scenes. So right now, it's kind of prompt engineered to provide a very concise uh, summary of all the data for that customer or whatever it is that's being pulled behind the scenes. You can kind of prompt engineer it to be a little bit more verbose and be able to tell you kind of what fields in the data uh, is powering like the different things that it's putting into the brief. So yeah, that's certainly possible.
Next one, Tori. There it goes. How do you see the job landscape changing for data analysts and data scientists with the availability of products like data analysis assistant?
Yeah, so the data analysis assistant, I think I I mentioned like at the very end, like I don't see AI kind of like fully replacing humans. Um, what I use the data analysis assistant for is to be able to do exploratory data analysis faster than I could normally, right? Like normally I'd have to go and like write all the code to do that and all that kind of stuff. The data analysis assistant just speeds that up by like orders of magnitude for me. And then I have like starter code even that I can copy and paste from there and then modify however I want. So um, I wouldn't say that it replaces like the data scientist or an analyst. I would say it like gives you superpowers and makes you that much more valuable, especially if you know how to use it and you know what questions to ask and that kind of stuff.
Awesome. So, is the code for these demos available on GitHub?
It is not. I developed these as part of work, so it's kind of proprietary there, and I can't like really share it. My motivation for this was kind of to show you what's possible and kind of inspire you to do this stuff on your own. I think through the design diagrams that I showed, um, if you know a little bit about working with LLMs and the APIs behind the scenes, like just looking at those diagrams, you could do this yourself.
Cool. And I think this is our last one. What do you use Anthropic for?
Um, I will often use Anthropic for like writing tasks. When I need help with writing something, I find that the Claude models do a much better job of kind of writing text that doesn't sound like an LLM wrote it, right? Which is sometimes the case with GPT-4o, unless you specifically like prompt engineer it to write in a particular writing style, right? With GPT, I found that you have to be kind of more explicit um, in telling it how to write when you don't want it to write like an LLM. But Claude tends to do that more naturally, at least in my experience.
Cool. And obviously I guess this is the last one. Will it be possible to get your slides? I think that's
Yeah. So what I'll do is I'll share my slides on LinkedIn. So go ahead and give me a
awesome.
follow on there, and then yeah, you'll be able to grab them off of there.
Perfect. Well, thank you so
Great.
much. That was a very interesting talk. Thanks, Tony.
Thank you, everyone.
And thank you all for joining, and enjoy the rest of the conference. Take care. Bye-bye.